Hello everybody, it's Connie Stewart with SimplySimpleStamping.com. So glad you guys could stop by for today's Tuesday tip because we're going to get organized in your stamping space, in your craft space. Today I have got a fantastic little Stampin Dimensional caddy. This is going to be a great little box that you can create that's going to hold your Stampin Dimensionals, your tear and tape. It's a fabulous little project, and I even have a special tutorial that goes along with it. Are you ready to learn more? Of course you are. Let's go. I hope you're excited to create the Stampin' Dimensional caddy. You see, it also holds some tear and tape. It's just a wonderful little addition to your craft desk. We love it because it's a DIY. I'm going to share with you how to create this, and of course we can customize what we want to say right here. So let me share with you the supplies you're going to need to create your Stampin' Dimensional caddy. Designer series paper. You obviously are going to want to use designer series paper that makes you happy, that matches your craft space. I'm going to use the Lovely in Linen today, and you're going to need a piece that's 6 by 12, so it's half a sheet of 12 by 12 designer series paper. My additional cardstock pieces, you're going to want to match that to your designer series paper. So I have a piece of Night of Navy that is a 1 1/4 by 5 inch. Flirty Flamingo, 2.5 by 2.5. I have a piece of Sweet Sorbet that's also 2.5 by 2.5. I've got a few more pieces of Sweet Sorbet, but I've got a little trick to share with you. So I have 2 pieces that are approximately 2.5 by 3 3/4, and 2 pieces that are 1 by 2.5. Now here's what I want you to do. When you're cutting these pieces down, I want you to cut just a smidge, just a tiny little hair less than 2.5 and a hair less than the 3 3/4. Same over here, just a little bit less. I just like to tell you to just go to the shorter end of the line. Don't be on the line, just go over just a smidge, and those are going to be cut just right. Before I get going too much, I do want you to know, I know many of you love visuals. I have a 7-page tutorial that goes along with my project today that you can order over at SimplySimpleStamping.com. And I want you guys to know there are diagrams that go with each of the measurements you're going to learn today. So if you want to grab that, look down in the YouTube description. I'll have a link to it. But this will help those of you that really like those diagrams and visuals. It'll make it a lot easier for you. So I've brought my paper trimmer in, and the first cut we want to make is at 5 3/4, okay? 5 3/4. Let me set that one off to the side because I want to work with this one. It is 6 inches by 6 1/4. Remember, this is the longer piece. So what I'm going to do is I want to put the 6 inches up here at the top, and we're going to cut it in half at 3 inches. So it'll now be 6 1/4 by 3 inches. So remember, we're just going to cut those in half. Now we're going to take one of these, we'll set aside. The next one, we're going to do a little more cutting. Let's cut it down to 1 1/2 inches. I'm going to take that 1 1/2. This is going to be some scrap, but guys, stick with me. Hold on to your scraps because I've got more caddies coming up this month, and you might be able to use this on another piece, so don't lose track of that. All right, now that we have that cut to 1 1/2 inches, let's cut it down to 4 1/4. So that final piece will be a 1 1/2 by 4 1/4, 6 1/4 by 3, and a 5 3/4 by 6. Now our 5 3/4 by 6, this is going to create the caddy itself. So we're going to do some scoring. You can use your Simply Scored board or your paper trimmer, whichever one is best. First thing we want to do is we want to find the 6 inches. Now that's the 5 3/4, so let's make sure we see our 6 inches up here at the top. I flipped it over just for ease, but the first measurement we want to do, scoring, is going to be 2 1/2. Now this is important. Let's get that cutting blade out of the way. Oh my goodness, we don't want to cut. We want to score at 2 1/2, and then we'll just slide it down and score it at 3 1/2. Now let's rotate it around. We're going to have that 5 3/4 up at the top. I always like to double check, which I do. And now we're going to score at 1 inch on each side. So remember, we're using the scoring blade, and we'll score at 1 inch on each side. Because it can be a little hard for you to see on the designer series paper, I went ahead and drew out the lines for you. What I want to do is see these two squares here in the middle. I want to cut, basically I want to cut off the score line. So as you can see, I'm moving to the left of the score line because we want to make sure we cut that off. We'll do the same thing over here. So here we're to the right of the score line, to the left of the score line. Again, just so we make sure we try our best to cut that off. So there are our two tabs. These are the pieces we're going to cut, and we're going to just kind of miter these. So I'm going to cut, as you can see, I'm cutting from the inside to that outside corner, inside to the outside corner. Just like that, we'll repeat right over here. Remember when I told you to cut the Sweet Sorbet cardstock a little bit less? This is why. I need this to fit right inside here, and I don't want it to be too tight. And by cutting just that little hair less, it's going to work out just right for you. I'm going to be using my multi-purpose glue for this project. The first thing I want to do is I want to add some glue. Forgive me for that. It's a brand new bottle and it kind of oozed out on me. This is why you want to make sure your cardstock is going to fit before you start gluing it down. But I'm just going to put that right inside. Can you see I've got just a hair, just a hair? That's exactly what I want it to do. Let me adhere this other one in this space. I love a good DIY project in my crafting space, don't you? I like to kind of create my own things because I like to customize. I like things to look perfect in my room. All right, we've got those two. These two pieces we're going to add right here onto this side. You're going to do it the same way you just did. All right, we have everything glued down. Now we want to create a notch here in the front of our box, okay? And we want to do that here on the side opposite of where we put our cardstock. So it's going to come out right here. You can use your favorite circle dies. I'm going to use my Stylish Shapes. It worked great for this one. The size that you use is entirely up to you, but I want to make it very clear we're only taking out half of a circle. All right, just a half. It really is kind of a little more for just decoration and kind of shows off what we have inside the box. So we are going to run this through our die cutting machine. And you know what? I should do this. I do want to flip it over because this is a detailed die and it's going to leave that nice stitched look. So you want to make sure you're doing that on the right side. I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine so that we only cut out half a circle. If you're struggling to get that centered, you can use those flaps right there on the side to kind of make sure you've got it right where you want it. We do want those to go flat when we run it through, but I thought I'd share that little tip. Now we'll place our cutting plate right on top. We'll run this through and we're going to go just to the end of that circle. We don't need to run the whole thing through because this is all we needed to cut away. There we go. If you've missed any of the measurements, not to worry. I have got a great tutorial for you today. You can find it at simplysimplestamping.com, or you can just look down in the YouTube description. I'll have a direct link to the tutorial. And by the way, this tutorial has all 4 diagrams that I used in all that cutting, scoring, everything that I did. So if you're a visual learner, this tutorial, this 7-page tutorial is definitely for you. Okay, now let's go ahead and get our project all put together. Before we put our box together, we're going to do just a little snip. I mean a little snip. This is on the side that we had those little 1-inch pieces of cardstock, and I'm just mitering again. And this is up at the top. You don't need to do it down here. It's just going to be up at the top. This is just going to kind of help our box go together a little bit nicer. It's going to take a tiny bit of bulk out. It's optional, but I always like to do it. If you'd like, you can take your bone folder, give these all a nice crease with the bone folder. You know, when it comes to boxes, we do like to have nice crease lines. Be gentle. It is designer series paper. Okay, I've got more tricks and tips like I always do. So what I want to do here is see the side that has the cardstock? We're going to put the tab and we're going to sandwich it between these. Can you see? So we're going to put the tab right there onto the cardstock end, and then we're going to encase it. This is the front of our box. This is the back, but we want to make sure we're going to have that designer series paper, or I'm sorry, the cardstock showing right there. So let's go ahead. We're going to take our multi-purpose glue. You're not going to need a lot. This is going to be sandwiched in between, so we don't have to go crazy with the glue, but we'll add that. Remember, it's going to the outside because we're going to hide it. So there's that on the outside. Now we can put more of our glue here on these outside tabs. Remember, do not squeeze glue too hard. All right, that really is key. And try to get as close to, you know, these little edges as we can, but you don't want that glue oozing out, right? Okay, now we will just bring those together. It really is a quick and easy project. And there is the first part of our box. Now here's the thing, it's kind of a flimsy box. So we're going to create a really amazing base for our box. Now I didn't mention this piece at the beginning of the video because guys, it truly is scrap. I dug this out of my trash can. I'm not kidding. It was a card that I had messed up on. In fact, when I pulled it out of the trash, it's kind of mangled. It does not matter. This is just going to be there for stability and you're not going to see it. So that is true scrap. All right, we're going to take this piece. By the way, you can also use the backing from your designer series paper if you want something a little bit firmer. But I promise you, this piece of cardstock is going to be plenty. And what we're going to do is we're going to adhere this. You're going to decide what side you want to be on the bottom. I want this green to be on the bottom. I want it to be an opposite color. So we're going to place that scrap cardstock right there. We are now going to do some little snippies. And I can see there's the angle. And I'm going to cut this corner off. Neatness will not count. I promise you, we're going to cover it up. But can you see? We just want to come right to that corner and we're going to cut that off. We're going to do the same thing here. Don't worry if you're not getting some exact point here. It's all good. But that is what it's going to look like. Now, I want to take that designer series paper, and I am going to use my bone folder here because I want to make sure I'm folding that right along that piece of scrap cardstock. And again, as I said, this won't show. Get that end and our last one. Okay, so what I want you to do now is I want you to go ahead and glue all of these tabs down. You won't have to go crazy with glue here because we're going to cover this. There, that is going to be my base. So this is on the bottom, but I didn't want it to be ugly. So you remember that other little piece of designer series paper that we cut? We're going to put that here on the bottom just to make sure everything looks pretty. That, my friends, is my base. So now when I put my box here, you can see I kind of have a little two-tone going on there. That looks awfully nice. I could have stuck with the blue on all of it, but I think that looks really good. Now we simply add more glue. Boy, you're going to want to make sure you invest in a bottle of multi-purpose glue today, huh? So we're going to put that here on the bottom, and we'll just add that right here. Here's the other reason I kind of like using that glue is I want to be able to see, bear with me, because I have to kind of look straight down to see. That looks good. A tip for pressing that down, you can take a clear block. You could use an ink pad. Yeah, but that'll kind of help you get in there. Give that a good press. There is the base of our Stampin' Dimensional Caddy. So let me just kind of show you. Here's my Stampin' Dimensionals, my tear and tape. Those are going to fit right inside there. Boy, it needs a little love, doesn't it? So let me show you how we're going to decorate it and make it look cute. So we're going to take our Sweet Sorbet, our Flirty Flamingo, and this is a piece of adhesive sheet. So each of these are 2.5 by 2.5. Let's take that adhesive sheet. I'm going to peel off the backing on that. This is all sticky. We're going to place that right here on that Flirty Flamingo. Give it a nice little back rub. That's ready to go. Let's bring in some dies. Now, my friends, you can use any of your favorite dies, but I thought the summer shadows were so pretty for this one. So I'm going to use this background and then this outline image. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the solid And I'm going to die cut that here from my sweet sorbet. Now we're going to take the outline, we're going to flip it over because we want that adhesive on the back. We're going to run this die through. And before I peel that backing off, I want to go ahead and get my image lined up because, you know, we've got several sides. Got to find the right one. There we go. So it looks like that's how it's going to go on. So I want to make sure I know that now. Grab that backing. We'll peel that off. This is going to make it so easy, you guys. It's going to go right to the edge. And now we have this gorgeous two-tone flower. So we're all ready to go. And this is the alphabet bundle. So it's a fabulous little alphabet stamp set, but look at this great little label punch that goes with it. So because we're going to be stamping this on Night of Navy cardstock, we're going to do some heat embossing. Now, if you're new to heat embossing, we do like to rub down our cardstock with an embossing buddy. And this all comes as a great little kit. Everything you see here, this is a wonderful little embossing kit, but I'm going to give that a nice little rub down. Next, we're going to come in. I've got all my letters to spell out the word create. You can spell out whatever you want, but I thought I want to kind of have it creative with my space. So I've got a Versamark ink pad, and we're going to start kind of there in the center. We're going to say C and then R. Honestly, you don't have to spell it in order, but we want to make sure we give ourselves some space in between each of these. C-R-E-A-T and a final E. I'm going to use white embossing powder, but you could also use silver, gold, anything you want. We'll just sprinkle that on. Use my handy dandy tweezers here to tap off that excess. And do you see we have, even though I'm tapping, there's still some little bits and pieces. Well, guess what? You've got a little brush. So if you have some little strays, you do want to make sure you get rid of those before we heat set it. There's a little cap here. I can now pour that back into my tray, but let's bring in those fabulous little tweezers. Now let's do some heat setting. I'm using my Stampin' Up! Heat tool. I like to let it run for about 30 seconds, kind of start to get hot. I am going to start. I'm just going to put that heat tool. I'm maybe about 3-4 inches away from the letters. And you notice I'm moving it back and forth. You're going to start to see that embossing powder go from kind of dull white to a nice shiny white. Do you see it melting? When that melts, look at that. Pow! We get that fabulous bright white look. So I'll tell you what, I am going to keep heat setting all of my letters. You notice though my tweezers are keeping my hands from getting burnt. We like that. If you've never tried heat embossing, trust me, it is magical. I love it. Now, one thing I will say about heat embossing is that this is still hot. This is still warm. This embossing powder is still warm. You don't want to start doing your punching with that best label punch until this is cooled off, all right? I speak from experience. I have a big smudged C on my project, so wanted to pass that tip along. Make sure that's good and cool. And we are good to go. I'm now going to use my punch. You notice I'm using it upside down because I want to center each letter. So there's 1, 2. Now you're going to hit a point. You're going to need to cut that away so you can keep punching. There's our word create. I've got another trick for you. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to spell it backwards. So we're going to say C, and I'm flipping it over, R, E, A, T, and E. All right, so there are my letters, and they're all backwards. I'm going to use the black Stampin' Dimensionals just because this is dark. And what I want to do is just line up. You'll see on this punch, it's just got these perfect spots that line up. And you're going to put it together with a black Stampin' Dimensional. So we have, there's our CR. Now we'll bring in the next one and line those up. Add a dimensional. So it's going to hold all these together, CRE. I'm going to finish this up for you guys. And now when we flip it over, we have perfectly straight the word create. Now the black Stampin' Dimensionals come with both the large or the regular size and these little mini ones. I'm going to go ahead and put a couple mini ones there on the side just to kind of fill everything in, make sure I don't have anything too loose. I don't want anything to catch on it. Remember, it's sitting on my desk and I'm not a clean stamper. So we'll take our word create. We will center that up in our adorable little Caddy. Now for our flower, I'm just going to use some multi-purpose glue, and I'm going to put it right here onto my box. And it's just not a Connie project until you add some bling. So let's add one of our pastel pearls. I've got my fabulous Stampin' Dimensionals, my tear and tape. Look at that. I'm ready to go. It's not going to fall over. Nope, I've got a great base on it, and everything is beautiful and perfect. It's got strength because we added that cardstock to the inside of our box. So that's what made that nice and strong. Perfect project. Thank you so much for joining me today. Hey, if you liked the video and the project, give me a thumbs up there on YouTube. I always love that. And if you haven't subscribed, why not become a subscriber? That great big red subscribe button is just waiting for you to go click. And if you click the bell right next to it, YouTube will even let you know whenever I'm back with a new video. Guys, don't forget about the tutorial over at simplysimplestamping.com. I look forward to sharing another craft room organizing project with you next Tuesday. See you then. Bye-bye.